Well, as I said, Buddy came home at the end of my junior year, and I was up in the stock company, the Adirondacks. It was a place called Eaglesmere. There was a lake on top of a mountain formed by a crater, and a resort was built around this place called Eaglesmere that was frequented by, at the turn of the century, by the mainline Philadelphia people. The cottages were anywhere from 14 to 20 rooms each. Big old gingerbread mansions with servants' quarters outside, with pumps in the summer kitchen, with attics that had all kind of wonderful little surprises in them, open fireplaces, lots of bedrooms. So one was rented for the cast that went up. Some of us came with our professor, Miss Krause, from Northwestern. Some were her students from previous days who were already in New York looking for jobs, trying to make their way. They joined us. So we had some of the professionals and some of the students working together. It was wartime, so men were scarce. We had very few, but we chose vehicles that had more women than men in them. It was a wonderful summer. My roommate from Northwestern and I were in charge of the kitchen. Before we got there, Miss Krause asked us to come to her office. She said, "There is a student here who wants to come very much. I didn't put her in the original company, but she came, she cried. She said she wouldn't care if I didn't cast her. She just wanted to watch and learn. And what should we do?" My roommate looked at me and I looked around and said, "Oh, let her come. We'll put her on the kitchen committee." Her name was Patricia Neal. Well, after that summer, Patricia Neal, who was only her sophomore year, went to New York and became a star. Anyway, the girls all stayed on the third floor, the boys all stayed on the second floor, and we rehearsed, like in the old-fashioned stock companies, we rehearsed one show in the morning, we rehearsed another show in the afternoon, and we performed the show that we rehearsed last week in the evening. It was grueling, but it was delightful. We had two girls who were our crew, two husky girls. They made a fountain for when we did The Importance of Being Earnest. There was to be a fountain in the middle of the set. They took a kiddie swimming pool and filled it, put shrubbery around it so you couldn't see it, and they lay on their backs with hoses, blew water during the performance. We couldn't build sets because you couldn't buy nails. This was wartime. These things were all rationed. We went to find old wood in the town, pull out the old nails so we could use them. Food was the same. Food was heavily rationed. I can't tell you how many meals we made out of Campbell's tomato soup and spaghetti, or grilled cheese sandwiches, mashed potatoes. Butter was rationed, meat was rationed. Canned tuna fish we had. It was challenging, but nobody ever had more fun. And we got to play some of the best plays in American literature because Miss Krause wouldn't do trash. She wouldn't just do commercial theater. She did classics. I starred in Hay Fever by Noel Coward. It was wonderful. Well, at the end of the summer, Buddy and I decided to get married. In those days, you could be with your boyfriend unless you were married. He couldn't have his girlfriend unless he married her. There was no such thing as cohabitation. I mean, that was for tramps. So I called my mother and father in Kiwani, and I said, I'm going to get married this weekend. My father said, how can I leave the store? I got a first sale. My mother said, I'll go. So she came. The rabbi we went to in the village, the town, little town, said, oh, my wife is in labor. I can't marry you until after the baby's born. So we waited until we got the call. It was 10 o'clock at night. We went to his apartment, and he married us. They gave me, I think, 4 days off, so I didn't have to be in the next play. And I had 4 days off, and Buddy and I, at the courtesy of his uncle, we had a weekend of the 4 days in New York for a honeymoon. When I came back, I thought, I only have 11 hours to go for my degree. So I called Northwestern, and I asked how I could make up the 11 hours by commuting. It would be a long commute from Maywood. Oh, did I leave out telling you why we ended up in Maywood again? Apartments were impossible to find because the soldiers were coming home. And we just couldn't find anything. And it would mean doubling up with a relative or buying a house. We couldn't afford that. So my parents suggested, ask Grandma if you can move in with her on the second floor. Esther and Sydney and their children lived on the first floor. So there I was, back to where I started as a toddler, second floor in Maywood. My grandmother was very tactful. She kept to her room, she kept to herself. She had her newspapers, she had her gardening, and she left us young couple to feel like it was our home, which we made it.